Welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco, your personal financial technician. Whether you've had years of success in your business or are just starting out, HighLift Financial can help you create a vision for your business, life, and family, and align these for generational wealth. So as they say, what happens in your life affects your business. And now, on to the show. How do we build business? How do we build value in our business? I think I break this down into a three-step process. The first one is you have to develop a personal vision for your family and your business. You know, Stephen Covey in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, first habit, begin with the end in mind. You're going to go on a trip, so you get your GPS out. So what's the first thing you need to do when you're planning a trip and putting in your GPS?
Destination.
Where are you going, right? So we don't know where you're going. How are you going to get there, okay? And so I illustrate kind of the process I work with when I'm working with clients is this whole thing is like putting a puzzle together. So everybody's put a puzzle together, right? Have you ever done it without looking at the picture on the box? It's hard as shit, right? It's hard. Yeah, you just, excuse my French, too, by the way. It slips out.
I still work.
Okay, you still work with body. Okay. All right, okay. So if an occasional F-bomb comes out, you'll be fine, all right? Yeah, just forgive me now, okay? Okay. But yeah, so what I do is to help the shop owner to develop the picture first, and then we can now put the pieces of the puzzle together. So really, this is a question, for some of you, maybe the 10 years is like, I can't even think about that. But I like people to start thinking in 10-year increments because it gets us to really expand our thinking, all right? You know, another book that Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy did was called 10X is easier than 2X. To double your business takes twice as much work. To 10 times your business means you got to start thinking differently. All right? And so it gets you to start thinking. And so when we start looking at what we want our life to look like 10 years from now, all right, it just gets us to expand our thinking. But then we can break it down into 3 years. And then what do we need to do this year? So again, how to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. We take a big picture that kind of blows our mind, but now we start breaking it down into chunk-sized pieces. By the way, I see how you're taking notes. Anybody wants this presentation? All right, when I'm done, I can email it to you if you just give me your contact information. Because like I said, I got a ton of stuff in here, okay? And I'd rather you be thinking a lot more about what I'm talking about. So anyway, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a market or industry leader? Do you want to be a family or community asset or create a legacy? Or do you just want to do something else, man? I mean, I get a lot of guys that are like that. And they're like, hey, look, I loved what I did for 40 years, all right? I'd like to be able to have more free time and maybe do consulting work. I mean, that's what I love about this industry, man. I'm telling you, and I'm an outsider coming in, all right? I always tell people, I think, they ask me, how did you find the collision industry? I said, no, I think it found me, all right, more than anything. I think it's divine intervention, to be honest with you, because, you know, what I find, I love the people in this business. I think yet to meet one that is not good-hearted, all right, that doesn't have the best interests of their families and of their business in mind, okay, and they want to give back to the industry. And I think that's really something that's really important. And so and those are things that are very near and dear to my heart. So anyway, but again, so it could be any of those things. So we got to create the picture first. So then the second step is now, okay, so we're going on our trip. So now we know where we need to go. So what does GPS then ask us? Where do you want to start? Or where are you? You know, usually it's got your location, right? So we got to figure out where you are. All right? And to do this, we need to look at two things. We need to look at the current value of your business, all right? So what is the business value? And then what do you have in personal resources? So typically what I'll do with clients, I start working with them, we're going to look at the valuation of the business, and we're going to look at what your free cash flow is. And then I'm going to start running a financial roadmap, all right? That says we start looking at your personal assets, and then again taking step one, the big picture, how does this all fit together? And a lot of times what we do is we can identify there's a gap that's there. It's like I was telling you about the shop owner that's 55, all right? They have this value gap. So now we're in the process of how are we going to close this gap? And there's two ways you can do it. One is we build up the personal resources. The problem with that is that's very slow, okay, because that takes time. All right? Or we can raise the value of the business, which will increase free cash flow. So not only is the business value going up, but now free cash flow can be used to help build the personal resources. So that's why I spend so much time on building value. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So then step 3 is about putting a plan in place. All right. So this is a process I call owner-based planning, all right? And it's really kind of a 3-step process as we kind of work through it. So it's really about ensuring business continuity, building business value, and minimizing risk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take each one of these steps, all right, and break them down individually. So when we look at the first one, this is about ensuring business continuity. So does anybody know what business continuity is? What happens if you get hit by a Mack truck? What happens to your business and what happens to your family? Okay? That's what business continuity is. It's really about putting plans in place that say, okay, let's take the immediate thing. You know, the worst tragedies, and I've seen this, where, I mean, I can give you a great example. I had a business owner who was 52 years old, seemed to be in good health, all right? Wife, kids. Was on the treadmill one day, dropped dead of a heart attack. Had no continuity instructions in place, all right? No way to ensure that his family's income was taken care of. No succession plan with key employees. So what happened? A bunch of his key employees panicked, left, ended up having to sell the business for pennies on the dollar just to give some liquidity to his wife. And the guy was living on, his family was living on 300 grand a year. Now she had about 100 grand a year to live on once you added up all the assets and got them structured for income. All right? We don't want that to happen. So this is always the first starting point I work with, is putting together business continuity. And there's basically 4 areas on this. So the first one is business continuity instructions. What this is and they're basically directions. It's actually a document that has directions to your family and your key employees about the who's, where's, and how's. So who needs to be contacted? You know, who's your exit planning advisor? Okay, who's your CPA? Who's the attorney? Okay, what key vendors need to be contacted right away? What key customers need to be contacted? The where's. Where are all the documents? Where are our corporate documents? Where are insurance policies? Where's the combination to the safe? Okay, where are the passwords located for all the websites that we need to access? Okay, banking websites, vendor websites, any of those things. And the hows, how to go about doing this, getting very specific instructions. Here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. So really, and it's going to address 2 different areas. It's going to address the losses of financial capital, not only to the business, but also to the family. So having those vehicles in place, and also addresses the descendants' family needs, because we don't want to see, because of a tragic event, you know, all of a sudden now your family not being able to live the lifestyle that they had been able to live. Okay? I'm in the process right now. It's funny, as I've been doing this work, I'm like, I got to get my act and my stuff together here too. So, and that's what I'm doing. But yeah, making sure these things are taken care of. So really, those are just the instructions. I think the second area is looking at properly written buy-sell agreements. Now, being in a partnership, you're the one in the partnership, right? Do you guys have a buy-sell agreement? So you got something in place?
Yep.
Okay. When's the last time you had it reviewed?
5 years ago.
5 years ago? Okay, that's pretty good. Because that's one of the things that I find is that a lot of times buy-sell agreements are not always reviewed on a regular basis. I also think even if you don't have a partner, you want to have some type of buy-sell agreement in case something happens, like who's going to take over the company or who's going to run the company to ensure that until the family can figure out what you want to have happen. And you may even put that into the continuity instructions. You may say, you know, if this should happen, my kid's going to take over the business, or if these key employees are going to do this, or no, I want all debts to be paid off, have financial vehicles to do that, and then I want it to be sold at this valuation, okay? Problem with a lot of these buy-sell agreements, they only address transfers on an owner's death and incapacity. They don't take out things like, you know, involuntary transfer caused by divorce or bankruptcy, okay? I mean, your partner, is he married? If he got divorced, that can create problems there. Maybe she still wants to get a portion, she feels entitled to a portion of the business. If you have irreconcilable differences between owners, you also want to have what's called a right to first refusal. So there's a provision you can build into buy-sell agreements. It's called a Texas shootout. You know how it works. So what it works is you have written in there this Texas shootout provision. So if there is a dispute or one owner wants to leave, he can give an offer to the first owner. All right? If the first owner doesn't accept that, then what it says is if he doesn't accept that, then he's going to buy him for that same amount. And you just write this into the agreement. So there's no discussion. One can come and say, I want you to buy me out for this. He says no. And the guy says, okay, then I get your portion. Yeah.
Is that legal?
It's legal, yeah.
It's actually called a shootout clause, correct?
Yeah, Texas shootout, yeah.
Oh, you did?
Texas shootout, yeah. Yeah, it's a shootout clause. So, but again, having rights of first refusal so that, let's say something happens to you that your partner just can't sell it out from other and does not give, let's say if your spouse wanted to become an owner, all right, be able to sell it out from under her. So that's what all of those are. You also want to look at other problems like cookie cutter valuations. Boy, I see this all the time. I mean, I see buy-sell agreements that are written and nobody's ever done a proper valuation. It's all cookie cutter. It's what the CPA tells them. It's what their attorney tells them. It's what, this is what my buddy says it's worth. I mean, I got one guy, he and his brother are majority owners. They had, I looked at their buy-sell agreement. It was $500,000 each of term insurance. And I'm like, well, your business does about $4 million. Why are you coming up with that your share is only worth $500,000? Well, that's what our insurance guy said. Little secret about insurance guys. I sell insurance too, but because I'm more holistic, this is not the way I operate. But most insurance people, all right, will only sell you what they think they can sell you.
What they think you can afford.
That's it.
That is correct.
That's exactly right. Instead of what you need.
That is correct.
Right. So anyway, that was a mess. And it was term insurance. So what happens when the term runs out? Now they got to go get underwritten all over again at an older age, okay? Plus you can structure it in a way where the company can fund it. Okay, so it's not coming out of your personal pocket. A lot of times they're outdated. I'm glad you had this reviewed. Every 3 to 5 years, you should have all of your agreements reviewed. Your buy-sell agreements, your estate planning documents, everything. That's a rule of thumb. I mean, I require my clients that we do this. And I have it marked in my CRM, okay, we're time to review your documents. And sometimes it's just like, anything changed? Nope, okay, everything's cool. But just looking at it. That they're poorly implemented and not properly funded. We just talked about that too. So, any questions on that portion of it? You know what it means when a speaker looks at his watch? Absolutely nothing. Okay, key person protection. So again, having the owners, having some type of key man insurance on the owner. Okay, I'm working on a plan right now with a client. He has a very profitable shop, has a key employee who's like a son to him, okay? And he'd eventually like to transfer ownership to him, but he's like, well, I don't know if I want to really exit because I just need a place to go, I want to hang my hat. And so we're in the process of helping him become more of that incidental owner, but his key employee doesn't have any money, okay? And there's ways that we could start to give him ownership, but then one of the things that we're looking at is saying, look, in lieu of giving him ownership, let's create an incentive plan, an employee, and I'm going to talk a little bit about employee incentive plans here too, that basically as the business grows, he will get incentives, maybe in cash, maybe in stock, maybe in a combination of both, but we're going to put in the business continuity plan a key man policy on the owner for the value of the business, so that if the owner dies, all right, the company then gets the money, then the key guy uses to pay out the wife, and then he's got 100% ownership. So it almost becomes self-financing in that way. Okay. Also,
is that what it's called, key man insurance?
Yeah, key man could be on key employees or on.
Is there like a technical name?
No, that's actually what it's called.
Yeah.
Call that key man?
So I've owned my shop for almost 2 years, and
Oh.
the bank made me get a key man. They're the beneficiary of. Go figure. So if I die, they get their money and my loan's paid off.
Right.
I understand that, but I didn't know that's what it was called, key man insurance.
So I asked that exact question. I asked my insurance agent, I was like, I don't want to sound like a dumbass, but what's a key man like?
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
and he explained, he's like, yeah, well, you're the key man.
You're the key man, yeah.
You know, so
Right, exactly. There's also let's say something happens to you, there's certain responsibilities that you may have that if the family wants to keep the shop running, the shop is going to have to hire somebody to fill your role. So now the company has funding to be able to afford that, the salaries, the benefits, those type of things. So that's the other thing that's on it. So cover debt, buyout, or it could be just to fund somebody to replace you. Okay, and that's the same thing with the key employees. You can do the same sort of thing. If you've got a key employee, having that key man insurance gives liquidity to the company because you're going to have to hire somebody to do that. So now you have the funding to be able to do that. That's how it works for just your true key employees there too. All right, having a stay bonus plan. Those can be a lot of different ways, whether cash bonuses or stock purchases. They can be a lot of different ways. But a lot of times, how many people give bonuses to their people? Are they cash bonuses? Yeah. Is there any vesting on it? And that's what I see most of the time, all right? And what I recommend too is, first off, I'm not saying get rid of those cash bonuses. I think, because employees rely on those things. But you could start to put stipulations in as they help to increase the cash flow. They get an additional bonus on top of that through new free cash flow. So let's say, for example, your free cash flow is $500,000 a year, okay? And through their help, they help you to grow it to $550,000. So now you get $50,000 in new additional free cash flow, all right? You take a portion of that. Okay, so let's say we take 40% of that. Let's say 50%, half of that. So we get $25,000. These now can go into an additional bonus plan, but it's under a vesting schedule. So, and a lot of times the way we structure them is 5-year revolving. So what happens is, so let's say you get $25,000, let's say you have 5 key employees, they get $5,000, goes into this additional plan that's under a vesting schedule. So it means if they leave within the first year, they don't get any of the money. If they leave in the second year, they get 25% of it. If they leave in the third year, they get 50, 75, and then 100% after 5 years. But then every year that you're doing that, it goes into a new 5-year schedule. The stay bonus plan is great for key employee retention because it also gives them something to lose if they leave. Okay? Does that make sense? But I would do this not in lieu of cash bonuses, but in addition. And it's based off performance too. So you've set up a performance matrix, and a lot of times it has to do with growing the free cash flow. So you're using new money to help fund this. Does that make sense? Okay. And then also succession of management plan. What's that?
That I'm lost on that kind of deal there at all.
Okay.
So maybe I'll need to talk to you after.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. If I can draw it out, actually, it would probably make more sense. So I'll show you. And then also under key employees, having a succession of management plan. So again, if something happens, who's going to take over what? All right. And this is one of the early steps that I do is already identifying, here's all these key responsibilities. Who's in charge of it now? Who could or would be the successor, and then how much training do they need on that? Could they take it over right now? Do they just need a little bit of training, or they need to be fully trained? And now we can put in a management succession plan in place to start getting them. And it does 2 things. First off, it helps to ensure your business continuity, but second, it helps us to get more closer to that incidental ownership scenario. All right, and then estate planning. One of the things I see a lot of times is estate plans that are not properly structured. First off, I'm not going to even ask this question. I read an article, and this has been my experience too, that 68% of Americans do not even have a will, power of attorney, medical directives. Okay? It's even higher among attorneys. Physician, heal yourself. So first off, having documents in place is critical, most especially a power of attorney. Because in business continuity, if something happens to you and there's any asset that's just in your name, okay, nobody can access it without the power of attorney. So, all right. And especially if you become incapacitated, that's probably even more important. We were lucky. My dad suffered with Parkinson's for 17 years, and he was at the end stage. We had to move him into hospice. So we were trying to coordinate things, and we didn't think we could get a hold of hospice. This was on a Friday. We didn't think we'd get a hold of hospice till that Monday. So my son wanted to go golfing, so I go golfing with him. I'm out on the course. I'm on the second hole, and my phone rings, and it's my sister, and she's saying, hey, hospice is here. They can get somebody in. We can get dad in right away. And I'm like, okay. So I got my mom on the phone because luckily when we had done my dad's power of attorneys, we had named both of us as power of attorneys. Now, my mom's 87. She couldn't really handle it. So I walked her, literally I'm walking down the fairway talking to her and saying, okay, Mom, just check this, walked her through it. Okay, go ahead and sign it. And so we weren't delayed at all. And that, because I think that's really important, a properly structured POA too, to have that. But so you always want to have at least a will, power of attorney, medical directives. Trusts are great vehicles if you're looking to protect assets. Okay, whether it's from bankruptcy, whether it's for long-term care planning, if you have properties in multiple states. You know, like I got clients of mine that have vacation homes in Florida, okay, or North Carolina. The problem is if you've got properties in multiple states and you die, you have to open an estate in every single state. Okay, and Florida, for example, is a very high probate state, meaning it's very expensive to open an estate there. But if you have everything in trust, you don't own the asset anymore, the trust owns it, but you still maintain control of the asset. Okay, so just some things to think about. These are always things I want to look at with my clients. So, and again, proper corporate structures. You know, I think that's something that a lot of people don't look at. How many people are sole proprietors here? Sole proprietor, okay. How many people are an S-Corp?
We own an S-Corp, but we're C-Corp.
You're a C-Corp, okay. So there's pros and cons to all of them, okay? And there's nothing to say that one's right or one's wrong. It's really going to depend on what your personal situation is, and that's something that hopefully your CPA, especially if you got a tax planning CPA. I'll give you another little secret. Are there any CPAs in the room? All right, I'm going to bash them.
One thing about, like, a lot of people's businesses are all LLCs now.
Right.
But if you do have an S corporation on the realty company,
right.
But the C is on the body shop.
Right.
So the C corporation, you can pay health insurance, you can pay this. There's so many advantages
right.
to the C, but nobody has the C's.
And lower taxation too, because you're corporate rates.
Out of a C, they suck it to you for the last 50 years.
That's right.
So you can't hardly get out of it once you're in.
Well, that's not true anymore. They did change that. So they will give you, if you establish a C Corp, you do it in 5 years, you can reconvert back to an S. I got one of my clients who was constantly converting back and forth, which that's why they put the stop to that. But now they do allow that once you establish the C, you have to keep it for at least 5 years, but you can always go back to the S. But yeah, so a C Corp, for example, the pro to it is better taxation. Okay, because you're getting
a hell of a lot more money.
What's that?
You can get a lot more money out of it too.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it also depends too on how you want to do a transfer. So if you're doing like a family transfer or an internal transfer, I think the C Corp is the best thing because you could do stock transfers, especially with the family, and there's ways to structure them where you can minimize, because the stock transfer is at capital gains rates, not ordinary income rates. Okay, so I hope I'm not getting too much in the weeds with you guys. I start to get fired up about this stuff, and it's like this is what I love doing. This kind of thing. It's like putting the puzzle together now. So, but anyway, stock transfers are taxed at capital gains rates, so it's much more advantageous. Especially if you're going to do a family transfer, there's strategies you can use to utilize your lifetime gift exemption to gift stock to the kids. Now you eliminate any tax liability that's on it. So it's cool stuff.
Big advantage if you got family involved.
Right. One of the drawbacks, you got to be careful with double taxation, especially if you're going to establish a C Corp. The other thing is too, if your goal is to eventually sell to a third party, especially a consolidator, they don't want to do stock purchases. They want to do asset purchases. So anytime somebody's buying your shop, somebody's going to incur the tax liability. We want it to be them. They want it to be you. Okay? One of the good things is, and my partner, Laura Gay, who has the consolidation coach, she's my go-to person. So as I'm working through the process, I'm on the front end, we start to identify, and even if we're doing an internal transfer, a lot of times it's like, okay, let's just feel out what the third party market is, because what if this deal falls through? Now we got a plan B. But that's what Laura does. But again, one thing I like about how Laura does is she also helps to structure the deals. So she brings in a tax planning CPA, That's why I was going to bash on CPAs, because most of them are myopic. They're tax planners. They're tax preparers, okay? They look at this year and next. They're not looking 10, 20 years down the road. And you need to get, and that's what I always bring in, because most of my clients, do you have a CPA? Yeah, I've got a CPA. And then I start talking to them, I'm finding, no, they're a tax preparer, all right? I bring in a tax planning CPA, because we'll structure the deals to try to get as much into goodwill, which goodwill is all the stuff that you were talking about. Reputation, culture, those type of things, tax at capital gains rates.
Hey, I really want to thank you for listening to the Your Business, Your Life podcast. If you want to be notified when new episodes become available, click the subscribe button below.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of High Lift Financial. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investment, legal, or tax advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified professional with any questions you may have regarding your business or personal planning. DiFrancesco Financial Concierge, LLC, DBA High Lift Financial, is a registered investment advisor. Registration with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission or any state security authority does not imply a certain level of skill or training.